Imagine a state so powerful that its sea becomes a private highway, its laws spread across continents, and its soldiers can redraw the map at will. Now imagine that same state reaching a point where it can't reliably pay its troops, can't control who becomes emperor, and can't stop outsiders from walking into its most famous city. Part 1. When expansion stops paying. For centuries, Roman power fed on momentum. Conquest brought land, wealth, taxes, and captives, and those resources helped fund the next campaign. But when expansion slowed, the math changed. Borders still needed soldiers, forts, roads, supply chains, and commanders, yet the easy influx of new spoils diminished. At the same time, the empire's frontiers weren't quiet lines on a map. They were pressure zones where rival powers watched for weakness and migrating groups looked for opportunity. A big empire can survive a costly army when the state is stable, taxes are predictable, and trade flows, yet instability turns the army from a shield into a political weapon. Part 2. The Emperor Problem. One of Rome's most dangerous vulnerabilities wasn't a foreign enemy. It was the question of succession. When leadership changes become contests, decided by soldiers and court factions, every crisis becomes an invitation for someone to claim the throne for the good of the state. Civil conflicts don't just waste lives. They drain treasuries, disrupt trade, and force leaders to buy loyalty with payments and privileges, creating a cycle where the government becomes more expensive and less effective. Even when a strong ruler restores order, the underlying incentive remains. If power can be taken by force, ambitious generals will keep trying. Part 3. The economy bends, then breaks. An empire at constant war, external and internal, demands enormous revenue. When states struggle to raise money, they often reach for short-term fixes that make long-term problems worse. Heavier taxation, emergency measures, and financial solutions that erode trust in markets and institutions. As confidence weakens, people adapt by stepping away from cash-based trade and relying more on local exchange and survival strategies, which reduces taxable activity and makes the state even poorer. The result is a government that needs more money precisely when its economy is least able or least willing to provide it. Part 4. The world outside Rome changes. Another common mistake is to imagine Rome decaying, while everyone else stayed primitive. By the 4th and 5th centuries, many groups beyond Rome's borders had developed stronger leadership, better organization, and increasingly effective military methods. And some weren't just raiders. They were migrants searching for land and security. A major driver of this movement was pressure from other peoples pushing from the east, creating a chain reaction that sent communities toward Roman territory. This was not one invasion, but repeated waves, negotiations, betrayals, and desperate deals. Rome trying to manage population movement with political tools it no longer fully controlled. Part 5. 410. When the illusion shattered, even before the official end, there were moments that felt like the end. In 410, the Visigoths led by Alaric entered Rome and sacked the city after a series of clashes and failed negotiations, shocking the Mediterranean world. The sack did not erase Roman civilization overnight, but it proved that the old guarantees were gone, and that even the most symbolic city could be taken when imperial authority weakened. Part 6. 476. An ending that's also a label. So why do people point to 476? Because that's when the Western Emperor, Romulus Augustulus, was deposed, and Odoacer took control in Italy. A clean marker for historians, even though many Roman institutions and the Eastern Empire continued. In other words, Rome didn't vanish. It transformed, and the Western Empire stopped being a superpower long before the final title was removed. Rome's story ends the way many great powers actually end. Not with one final battle, but with a slow loss of control over money, over the army, over politics, and eventually over the border itself. And that's why 476 matters more as a symbol than a day the world ended, because the Western imperial title was removed after years of decline, when Odoacer deposed Romulus Augustulus in Italy. What makes this history unsettling is how ordinary it looks up close. Emergency taxes, short-term fixes, officials fighting each other, and communities adapting by relying less on the state and more on local survival. Meanwhile, the Roman world didn't simply disappear. Many structures and ideas continued, and the Eastern Roman Empire, centered on Constantinople, carried on long after the West's political collapse. So the real lesson isn't even the strongest city can be sacked, though 410 proved exactly that. The lesson is that civilizations don't usually die in one dramatic scene. They change shape, they split, they merge with newcomers, and one day people look back and realize the old world has been gone for a while. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the story. If you liked this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next uploads. New videos are coming, so stay tuned and see you in the next one.